Book buying is certainly not new, but with the rise of BookTok, more and more people have aspired to build aesthetic bookshelves filled with thousands of books, their own little library per se. While I think it's great that BookTok has inspired more people to start reading, it's certainly gotten me out of reading slump. The one issue I have is I think it puts a bit of pressure on people to feel like they have to own a book in order to start reading. I think there's so many benefits to checking out books from libraries that aren't discussed at all on social media. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing 4 books that I checked out from the library while giving you reasons that you should start borrowing more books. Without further ado, let's get into the books. The first book I got is Red Rising. This book is set in a dystopian society where a caste system is in place, with the red caste at the bottom and the gold caste ruling. This book follows Darrow, who's in the red caste, and his realization with how unjust society is and his struggle to overturn the system. I've been wanting to read this book for a very long time because so many of the content creators on my page love this book, and it just seemed like such an interesting concept. Now, the only issue I had was the main character is male, and it's obviously not an issue at all, but I'm personally used to reading books with female main characters. I feel like I tend to relate more to them, and in the past, I've just enjoyed books that have female main characters more. So for a while, I've been putting off this book, and that brings me to my first reason why borrowing books is great, because you can check out books that are out of your comfort zone. While obviously my issue was a really small one, I feel like this is something that's important in general. I noticed that a lot of the times I tend to buy the same sort of book over and over because I know that I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm not worried that I'm going to waste my money on it. When you're buying a book, there's a sort of pressure to have to buy a book that you know you're going to like, and sometimes I feel like this sort of boxes people in, where they buy the same types of books over and over because they know they're going to like it and not be wasting their money on it. But if you're borrowing a book, you're free to check out all different types of books, even books that you think you might hate, and there's no pressure because in the end, it's going to be returned anyways. So this is the first book I got, and the first reason I think you should borrow more. The second book I got is Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is a historical fantasy book set in Oxford, and that's about all I know about this book. Yeah, clearly I do not know a lot about this book, which is exactly my second point. Borrowing books takes off a lot of the pressure of having to know exactly what a book is about before getting it. I'm sure a lot of people have faced this issue, but whenever going book shopping, I feel so much pressure to know exactly what a book is about before I buy it. I feel like I spend hours and hours trying to analyze every single detail of each of them, and in a way, I feel like this sort of sucks out some of the joy of reading. I remember being in middle school and just going to the library, picking out random books, reading them, and while I didn't love all of them, it was such a fun process being able to pick a random book and start reading. Going to the library, I'm able to check out a book that I know very little about without worrying about wasting my money or shelf space getting a book that I'm not going to like. So that's my second reason that you should check out more books. And the third book I got is Yellowface, again by R.F. Kuang. Now, you might have noticed that the last book and this book are both by R.F. Kuang, and you'd be right. And the reason for that is because this month I started reading The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and so far I'm loving it. R.F. Kuang just has this beautiful writing style. The world that R.F. Kuang built in Poppy War is just so beautiful, and I love her writing style so much. So I got a bit addicted, and I wanted to read all of her books. Thus, I got both of these. However, my taste is always changing. And in the past, I've gone through many different phases where I've wanted to read a specific author's book or a specific type of book. So I ended up buying a bunch of those different books. And then honestly, most of the time, I didn't end up finishing them. So a lot of them are still collecting dust on my shelves, and I honestly don't know when I'm going to get to them. So that is my third point. Checking out books from the library is great because even if your taste changes and all of a sudden you decide, honestly, I don't really want to read that book anymore, it's totally fine. Whenever you're in a phase like a romance phase or a dystopian phase or an R.F. Kuang phase, you can check out as many books in that topic as your heart desires, and if you don't end up finishing all of them, it's totally fine. So that's my third reason that you should get more books from the library. And the final book that I got is The House in the Cerulean Sea. Now, those other 3 books were all books that I really wanted, but this book was actually not one that I asked for. Now, as a little disclaimer, I didn't actually get these books from my public library. Rather, my mom works at a high school, and the other day her librarian was asking her to check out some books. So my mom asked me if I wanted to check out any books, and I gave her those ones. And on top of that, the librarian recommended a few of her own favorites, this being one of them. Now, in the past, I have heard about this book. I believe it's a YA sort of fantasy book about these kids with magic powers. And based on the books I've read in the past and the books I asked for, my librarian recommended this book. And that leads me to my fourth point. I absolutely love librarians. Literally every single librarian I've ever encountered, all of them love their job so much, and they love reading, and they give the best book recommendations. First of all, I have not met a mean librarian. At least in my experience, they're always so sweet and eager to give you book recommendations. And honestly, a lot of their book recommendations are bangers. I've found so many of my favorite books from books that librarians recommend to me. So if you're ever at the library and you don't know what book to read, seriously just ask your librarian for some recs. They give so many amazing ones. Another thing that I wanted to add, if you are in high school especially, you should be utilizing your school library, because if we're being so for real, not many people in high school are reading. There's barely anyone who's checking out out books in high school. And so the high school library shelves are filled to the brim with books. I'm not in high school anymore, but when I was, every time I went to my library to find a book, it was almost certain to be there. While it can be sort of difficult to find books in public libraries sometimes, in high school libraries, you can almost always find the book you want. And even if they don't have it, at all of the schools I've been at, our librarian has always kept a running list of books that students want to order. And whenever they get the first opportunity, they buy them for the students. And so if you are in high school and you're a reader, please utilize it because you can get so many incredible books. And a lot of the times they're like brand new. For example, this book, brand new. I don't think a single person has checked it out yet. And other than that, this book isn't the newest, but it's literally been checked out one time. So again, almost new. This book, I believe, is a bit of an older book, but it's been checked out a single time, December 2021, and never again since then. So if you are someone who's a bit of a germaphobe or concerned about like the cleanliness or the smell of books, a lot of the times you'll be able to find new ones at the library. So those were all 4 of the books that I got from the library. Now, before I go, I just wanted to say a quick disclaimer. This video was in no way meant to shame anyone who buys books. I certainly have bought my fair share of books over the years, and I would be lying if I said I'm not going to buy books in the future. However, for new or old readers who feel any sort of pressure to buy books, I hope this video gives you some reassurance that you don't have to buy books in order to be a reader. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!